broadcasting on Star Worldwide Networks. It's In the Green Room. Green is in, but what does that really mean for you? Join the gang for a fun and energetic half-glass, half-full perspective to what and how sustainability is the lifestyle for the future. It can really affect everything you do, from your health, wallet, environment, money, even your morals. So our goal, to help save the planet one show at a time. Now, welcome to the Green Room.
Welcome, everyone, to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet. And we've got Martin back in the studio.
This is Martin.
Martin,
ready
our
for
co-host.
fun.
It's kind of his
Co-hosting.
late birthday show
Yes,
celebration.
it is.
So
It's
happy
absolutely.
late
Well,
birthday.
I'm taking the whole month of October. It's my 55th birthday, so it's triple nickel. So
You're not 55.
I am. So I can start taking the senior discounts now. Yeah. Let the discounts flow, baby.
Do we need the birthday song?
It's so crazy that you're 55 because you're like just one of the most laid back, ahead of the time, basically, I guess.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Like most
that.
people at your age aren't, as progressive and thoughtful, and you're just a really great guy, Martin. So
Thank you.
And he's elegant.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you in the green room every time.
Oh,
so,
well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I love being here. I thank you guys so much. The reason I feel so good at 55 is probably because I follow the advice of what these two gentlemen you're going to hear
Dr. James Kneller.
Because we've been talking earlier, and everything they've been saying I follow, and I feel great. So
Cheers to that.
cheers to that. Thank
Cheers
you.
to that.
Everything in moderation, and life
normally
is good.
I would be drinking wine too, but I'm doing sober October.
And I cheers you that for
I'm
that.
giving
Cheers.
my
Cheers
liver
for that.
some time to catch up because for some reason I've always been able to drink a lot. Like literally the first time I drank, I had like 5 shots of rum and I was like, I'm not even that drunk. So yeah, I just need to give my liver some time to heal and
Good
come
job.
back.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yes.
So I want to announce that we have the one and only Gary Briggs, and he is legendary in Arizona for Camelback Mountain in his book.
He's legendary here, and he's only been here for a half hour. My goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I've written 2 books on Camelback Mountain. One is a small book by Arcadia Books, and the other one is a big coffee table book.
Can we show the
It's-
picture of it? Here we go.
Oh, that's nice.
There we go. Can you turn it around? Ah, look at that.
Now,
Look at
I
that.
have the same problem with my books that Playboy magazine has.
And what's that?
I have a hard time getting anybody to read my books.
Oh.
They only look at the pictures.
Well, we
Oh, I
need
thought
a
you were
sound
gonna
of that.
say-
Thank you,
I
Robin.
thought you were going to say the pages are stuck together. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no.
But tonight you're going to hear what's in the text, and I think it'll surprise you.
Absolutely. Oh, the photos are just amazing. I mean, this is true Arizona history in this book. This is amazing.
All right, Gary, let's get an estimate. How many times do you think you've hiked Camelback?
Oh, yeah. How many times?
Like, let's put a number on it. Try to.
Well, it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
I would say it's more than that because I hike I see you almost every day when I hike. I see you about 5 days a week. So, how many days I think it's way more than thousands.
Well, I've been climbing mountains since I was a teenager, and I started doing rock climbing on Camelback when I was 16, climbing on the head of the mountain. And
And you did that with
Kinga's mother-in-law,
Yes, Kay.
My grandma.
Yes, Chet's
your
grandma.
grandma, climbed with us and rappelled and did this really steep, difficult climbing. She was really a go-getter as a teenager. Wow.
Well, shout out to Kay, also known as Emma. We love her.
And Chet Johns, Chet's grandpa, you were also best friends with
Yes.
all through the years.
They were great friends over the years. We had a lot of fun together. And now we're having fun with the kids and grandkids.
And I knew you before, before your dad, I dated somebody in the family, the Coonies, were really great friends with you as well. And so I've known you since I've been about 15 years old.
Well, it's been fun all the way.
All the way. And you dressed up as Santa every Christmas.
Well, for 50 years, I'd go visit families the week before Christmas in my Santa Claus outfit and say I was here to find out what you might like for Christmas. and then I'd give them some candy. In one household, one of the little kids followed me out after I went out the door, and he said, "Don't go down to that next house. They've really been bad."
I love it.
I love it. So you're spreading joy, and then you're also you were protecting our Camelback Mountain. I know you didn't you work directly with Goldwater, Senator Goldwater, Barry Goldwater?
Barry Goldwater wrote the preface, the foreword for the book, and he and I went when he was first running for Senate, hiked down to the bottom of Havasupai Canyon, and I was the older kid that made sure that the Cub Scouts, that one of them was Barry Goldwater's kids and grandkids.
Was it Barry Goldwater Jr.? He's been on our show a few times. Barry Goldwater Jr.
Yes.
has been on the show about maybe 5 times.
They were. He was with us on the hike to the bottom of Havasupai Canyon, and we all got out safely. And I had a wonderful time with Barry, and we've kept that family relationship through the years. And
if people don't know, he ran for president. I don't know what year it was, but Senator Barry Goldwater ran for president. He didn't win, but he did run.
Well, Goldwater did a great job in the Senate, and he did a great job, and really his run for the presidency set it up for Ronald Reagan.
That's true.
That was one of my favorite
The
presidents.
speech that Ronald Reagan made on behalf of the Goldwater candidacy was the single most electrifying thing in the whole Goldwater election, and that got Ronald Reagan's national campaign started.
Well, we care about the environment here In the Green Room, and we care about people that are, even though some of us might be Republicans, I feel like everybody cares about the environment. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Everyone does care about the planet. And I think that Barry Goldwater did a lot for our planet and wildlife conservation, and so has his son. And I know he took a lot of photos of nature. Do you recall that?
Well, Barry was really a professional amateur photographer, and he mainly focused on pictures up on the Navajo Reservation and near the Grand Canyon, where he created a whole lot of classic pictures, not just of the scenery, but his pictures of the Navajo people are the classics of all time. They're among the best pictures ever taken of the Navajo and Hopi people. So they were close friends with Barry, and his pictures are still treasured that he took of the Indian peoples.
I know you told me a story this morning on our hike that you have in your book, which I did read, but I got a little forgetful about some of the things I read, that part of our mesa would have been an Indian reservation. Can you tell us that story? That's a secret that nobody knows.
Well, this is one of the most important events in Arizona history that's almost never written about or talked about or even known about. But when Rutherford B. Hayes was President of the United States in 1879, he set aside 1 million acres as an Indian reservation, which comprises almost all of the land now that is Phoenix, Mesa, Glendale, and the farming area in central Arizona. So probably over 3 million people now live in what was designated by President Rutherford B. Hayes as an Indian reservation. Well, an interesting story followed that. The main guy in the U.S. Land Office at the time in Florence was a man named Charles Poston. He got the mining started in Cochise County around Douglas and Bisbee, and is known as the father of Arizona. Well,
The father of Arizona?
Charles Poston.
Okay.
And Poston realized that the city of Phoenix, which had just had a few hundred people there, that this was the land that was going to be most productive for urban and agricultural development. So he set apart to get that reversed. And he went to the state legislature and said, if we let this Indian reservation stand, we won't have the great city and agricultural community that's going to be in the future for Arizona. So the legislature got all worked up, and they authorized a telegram to be sent to President Hayes. And believe it or not, that telegram itself cost $266.
Wow.
And then they appropriated $2,000 for Poston and the governor to go back to Washington and try to see if they could get that Indian reservation reversed. And so Governor Fremont, John C. Fremont, who had run for president, and he was then the governor of Arizona, and Charles Poston and some others went back to meet with President Hayes to see if they could get the Indian reservation changed or altered. Little did anyone know that they really had the inside track. And they had the inside track for two reasons. One is both Hayes and Poston had served under John C. Fremont in the Civil War. And what people didn't really realize, that Governor Fremont on the side was doing secret mining deals with the secretary to President Rutherford B. Hayes.
The secretary?
That's the equivalent of the chief of staff. At that time, the secretary to the president was the guy that really ran everything in the executive branch of the government. So they went back to Washington and convinced Hayes to retract dramatically the 1 million-acre Indian reservation. And then after getting that done, and that was done by June of that year, so it was only an Indian reservation for 6 months. And then Governor Fremont went around and raised some more money for mining deals. So was that a little bit hokey, and would that be considered ethical now? No. But to some extent, you might say we're the Indian givers. We gave and took it back.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Wow.
Literally.
So true.
Oh, wow.
So true.
But
Wow.
the reason we have Camelback Mountain was part of that reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we didn't have that reversal, we wouldn't have the giant metropolis that we have here today. So that's the inside story on Arizona history.
With Gary Driggs.
So if that had not, if that had shaken out differently and they weren't able to change the reservation status, Phoenix could very well be where Tucson is or where Flagstaff is.
Well,
There would be a metropolis somewhere that not here because
well, it wouldn't be here.
yeah.
And what we really grew up as is an agricultural center. Back in the 30s and 40s, we had 400,000 acres under cultivation.
Wow.
Cotton, alfalfa,
Citrus does really well here too, right?
citrus does well.
Yeah.
But really, wheat and alfalfa and cotton were the big acreage.
And there's still a decent amount of dairy farms here. Like I know Shamrock Farms is in Maricopa County.
Well, they've got about 20,000 cows down there. Think how much milk that is to drink.
It's quite a bit.
Well, we support local businesses, so
We're all about local and supporting local businesses here at Gary Driggs. Do you understand that? Because we care about saving the planet
One
show at a time. Supporting local is helping our planet.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think of that, Gary?
Well, conservation is always a good idea, and the conservation of Camelback Mountain has given us a tremendous asset that most people don't appreciate what a unique asset Camelback really is.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Camelback Mountain, it looks like a kneeling camel, and if you understand the geology, the hump of the mountain is made out of granite that is 1.5 billion years old. The head of the mountain is 4 layers of sedimentary rock that are only 25 million years old. So the rocks in the hump are the age of the rocks at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and the head is more recent than the top of the Grand Canyon. So every time you climb Camelback, you're taking the same geologic trip as if you hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and back.
Wow.
And it's right here in Phoenix.
Wow, you're just so legendary with all your information, and your book is so amazing. Everybody needs to read this book. How can they find your book?
Well, you can get it on Amazon, either the smaller black and white book or the big coffee table book. They're both available. And you'll learn a lot about Arizona history and the unique climate that you have on Camelback. For example, the north side has a lot of plants that only grow 30 or 40 miles up in the higher country from Phoenix. And you have a tremendous array of animals that are on Camelback. And so it's really a natural treasure. Most people that just walk up and down don't realize the unique things about the mountain. For example, there's the ceremonial grotto. Most people never notice it.
I love the ceremonial grotto.
When you walk up the trail on the head of Camelback Mountain, you pass by a grotto that 1,000 years ago was the most important religious site in central Arizona. As early as 1911, people found some artifacts there and sent them off to Washington to the Smithsonian. And they
Is
said,
that a cave? It's a cave.
well, it's a cave. It's about 4 stories high and 100 feet wide, and it goes back into the mountain, and when you can get in there, and it's totally shaded.
What used to go down in this cave?
Well, it wasn't a burial ground. It wasn't a garbage dump. It was only a church.
Wow.
They did their ceremonies there, and the ceremony that they did is they made little cigarettes with dried desert leaves and these rounded reed type to hold the plants, and they'd wrap them up in bundles of multiples of 4 or 8, and these are important ceremonial devices for the native people. So if you want to know what were people doing on Camelback 1,000 years ago, they were smoking 4-packs.
Is it true that they would use it was a type of poison from a frog that they would put on the on those cigarettes, and it would make them have like visions or something like that?
There was no hallucination from the ceremonies on Camelback Mountain.
Oh, okay. I know that there were some Native American tribes, I think in the Southwest, or might have been South America, where they did that.
Well, it's peyote is the what you're thinking about. And
yeah,
there's-
so that's
I think
what.
the frog is down in like Central America.
Okay, it's
yeah,
Central
America.
America.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
South America, but it's peyote for the American Indians.
Yeah, okay.
But none of that is found in Maricopa County.
Okay.
No.
So these were just religious ceremonies. They had their own rituals, just like we have our rituals now, both in churches, and we have our social riches, which often become balls to raise money for good causes. And
Do you think the
various events.
Indians sold baskets to raise money for their schools?
well, we find an endless number of ways to raise money now, and a lot of good causes. And people have some fun at the same time while they're raising the money. So, but for Camelback, it was a holy place. That's why I called the first big book I did, Camelback, Sacred Mountain of Phoenix. So when you look at Camelback now, think of it not just as a place to do your exercise, but as a place of worship.
Do you know every name
I
of
love
every
that.
kind of bush, every kind of the indigenous plants? Because I know on our last hike you came over and showed me, was that creosote?
Well, there's no doubt that I don't even have a fraction of the knowledge of all the cacti and all the plants, but I have what I call the veneer of knowledge, a very thin layer that makes you sound like you have knowledge.
No, that's not true. You took me over to a bush on a
Yes,
hike
I did.
about a week ago, and you poured water on the bush.
Right.
And then you said, Kinga, smell this, smell this.
Right.
That's the petrichor, which is the smell of the desert after a rain.
Right.
Yes.
Now let me tell you about that plant.
That's what
If
that
you-
word means.
How would you guys like to be able to identify 90% of the plants of the Sonoran Desert?
I would like that a lot.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great.
Good. We're going to learn it right now.
I'm all in.
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Because all you have to do is know 4 plants, because 4 plants comprise 90% of the number of plants, not the variety of plants.
Okay.
So you can safely say that you can identify 90% of the plants of the Sonoran Desert because that's 4 plants.
What are they? Gary
The
Driggs?
foothill palo verde,
Okay, Palo Verde, right?
the burr sage,
Burr
Burr
sage,
Oh, that smells so good.
the brittle bush,
brittle
Okay.
bush.
and the creosote bush.
Right.
And
the
creosote,
creosote,
that's the
okay.
one that you showed
Creosote
me.
is the one, if you put water on it, that's the smell of the desert after a rain.
Which
And
is
if you-
petrichor. The word is called petrichor. You taught me that.
Is that an essential oil, the petrichor, or is like
Well, it is an oil, and the natives use that as for medicinal purposes. They called it the little stinker. Was their nickname for the creosote bush. But those 4 plants are 90% of the number of plants, not the. We have many varieties, but they're a smaller number. Now, the cacti are really mostly found on the lower mountain slopes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find as many cacti out on the flat part of the desert. But on the lower mountain slopes, the Mexicans call it the Bajada. That's where most of the saguaros and the cacti and the beautiful flowers that we get. But those 4 plants give you the veneer of knowledge so that you can safely say that you can identify 90% of the plants of the Sonoran Desert.
All right.
So I have a
like that.
question for Gary. The saguaro cactus, lately we've been hearing stories of, they're supposedly they're dying. Is that true or is it exaggerated? Because we're getting closer to the election. Is it true that these saguaros are dying?
Well, every plant is dying eventually.
What does the biology have to do with the election?
I almost spit my wine out of my
Okay.
mouth when you said that.
Well, because some
the
people
mental gymnastics.
because some people don't believe in climate change, and a lot of people are saying the saguaros are dying because of climate change. And I'm wondering if people are going out and killing
stand
the
corrected.
saguaros.
I
What's the problem?
apologize.
Well,
That's
Let
totally
me
my
give you a
bad.
quick story of the saguaro. A saguaro only grows about 2 inches the first 10 years of its life.
Really?
And it can only
There's
grow that 10
30
inches if it has a nurse plant. A plant, and they're usually a Palo Verde tree, are the most frequent nurse plants for the saguaros. So when the seeds fall down, if they're shaded, its nurse plant will give it the shade that it can get to be 10 years old. After that, it grows about an inch a year. And it doesn't get flowers until 35 to 50 years.
Really? That's
No-
incredible.
Yeah.
No sex
You knew
till you're
that?
50.
Oh, yeah.
What?
No sex until after
So
50. Boy,
virgin-
that would have been way too long
So
for
the
me.
saguaros are virgins till they're 50?
Pretty much.
Well, that's right. They
Yes.
don't get flowers.
There's another 40-year-old version there, the 50-year-old version.
Well,
yeah.
sometimes they'll get a flower at 35. Those are the
Those are the studs.
exactly.
Those are the bad, you know what.
And so
The badass.
they start
You can say
getting
that word.
they start getting flowers at 35 to 50, and they don't get arms until about 70. So when you drive along the roads in Arizona and you look at saguaros, if you see the saguaro without any arms, it would be below 70. If it's got arms, you can tell how tall it was when it started getting arms, because they get the arms at about 70. And the natural life of a saguaro is about 200 years.
So when do they peak then? 70? So the peak is
Well,
at
no,
70?
they're just starting to get arms at 70. They'll peak in the over 100.
Wow.
But they'll live to be 200 years. But when we talk about the saguaros dying out, in the last 20,000 years, they've come and gone about 4 times. There's natural cycles of life
Right.
that happen.
That's what I thought.
And so now if you go up to the Colorado Plateau, we have a place near Page called Black Mesa. And what is at Black Mesa? Coal. How do you get coal?
You dig it out.
No. How does coal develop?
Chet, do you know any of these answers either?
It's just
plant life that it
Right.
was under the ground for a long time. So
right. It's plant life. So at one time, the Colorado Plateau, which is now a desert for the most part, and we look at it and we say, well, gee, there's no water here, there's no nothing. At one time, it was a verdant area of plants, enough to create some of the biggest seams of coal in the whole world.
And yes, he did say verdant. Go look it up.
So, so the one real certain thing about climate is it's always changing.
Yes.
And it has been. If you think about the northern part of Alaska and Siberia and Canada, what do we have up there?
whole lot of ice.
Well, we also have a whole lot of oil and natural gas.
Yeah.
In the tar sands of British Columbia, there's tremendous amounts. Well, did that come from ice? No. At one time, that was not icy, but it was covered with plant life. So for much of the world's history, there's been no polar ice caps. And so we find huge deposits of oil and coal and natural gas in northern Siberia and Alaska and northern Canada. So we want to preserve the earth as very best we can and be the best stewards we can, but we also have to recognize that the planet is always going through some evolutionary changes.
Yes.
But Gary.
Well, so are
Gary,
we. So is society, right? Right. It's all part of a one big. And that's not a plan, because no one included me on the plan. But I agree with you. What you're saying is just so impactful. That it is all interconnected, and even if it is we are causing it, it's still the earth and us reacting to each other, and it's all going to figure itself out if we can figure ourselves out.
But Martin, Chet, Gary, and Doc, don't we all see that there's too much plastic in the ocean?
Yeah, we all need to reduce
Yes.
our footprint everywhere.
Absolutely.
Not just
Everybody does.
plastic.
There's no doubt about that. That's exactly what we're saying.
Okay, thank you.
And one thing that's big is there's so much waste in America. We waste a lot of food.
Waste is bad business.
Yeah.
Waste is bad conservation. Waste is just bad.
And what are
Yeah.
the solutions? Let's talk about solutions. I mean, we can address
Don't
the
waste
problems.
anything.
But Gary,
It's a
what are
pretty
some of the
simple one right
solutions?
there.
Do you think that people have, maybe there's a couple, two people, and they're living in a 10,000 square foot home? Is that good for the environment, Gary?
Well, that's a slightly more complicated question than just because some of the people that are living in the worst conditions in Africa are causing some of the most pollution because they burn dung for heat and cooking. 20,000 children a year die from the fumes of burning animal dung to cook on. And it's very toxic.
And toxic to
Well,
the
you go to
environment.
India, you go to China, you go to Bangladesh, you go to most of those countries, and they are dealing with amazing environmental issues that
That's
are
why
far worse than what we're dealing with.
Well,
that's why it's important for us to be the leaders.
Absolutely.
And set the
Right,
example.
set the
And
bar,
We,
set the
always
bar.
need to be continuing to evolve and
We have to be
create
number
more
one in
efficient
America.
ways
Well,
to create
It doesn't
power.
mean that
even
we
if
can't
we're
enjoy.
third, let's just try a little harder.
well,
I need a little more here, Martin.
we should do everything that we can to be good stewards of the resources that we have. for example, the forest fires have been to a great extent caused by the buildup of dead trees on the forest floor. Recently, I went up to the University of Northern Arizona, where they have a forest products program of figuring out what's the most
I mean, a lot of it has to do
sustainable.
with we've been in a massive drought for like the past 20 years too. So a little bit of both. But like you were saying, it's kind of a natural cycle though. When those forest fires come through, sometimes it can lead to new plant life coming through and
Well,
new forestation. So
well, there's certain pine trees that can only germinate after a fire. The giant sequoia,
Wait, what?
the seeds are in pine cones,
Right.
and they fall to the earth.
And they will only germinate if there's been a fire.
Yes.
That is astounding.
Many not every, there's different families of trees and every kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have a different cycle.
Yes,
But-
this
but-
is one I never heard of. It's amazing, though. It makes sense.
But many of the pine trees, the pine cone stays tight until there's a fire and then it breaks open. Now
Wow.
that's true of many plants, only burn after a fire. My son lives in California and they had a huge fire. He has a big national
Which
park.
son?
That's Taylor.
Okay.
He's got 5 kids. He lives in Ventura County.
Okay.
He lives next to a national park recreation area, which is those rolling mountains with a few oak trees. That is in Ventura County in Los Angeles County. It's several thousand acres. They recently had a fire. It burned a few houses, but it didn't burn his. Just after the fire, there was a huge burst of flowers that they hadn't seen for decades. Because in the desert, for example, there's certain seeds that lay dormant for as long as 20 or 30 years. And they only will germinate when there's just the right combination of water and heat. And so when we get a big rainy season, suddenly the desert blossoms out in these
With
tremendous
stuff you've
flowers.
never seen before, yes.
And you haven't seen it ever before.
Yes.
But
You're
it's
right.
also true of these forests. Some of them require fire for the pine cones to open up and to germinate new trees. But we can do things to make it worse or better. NAU has found out that we're better off with forests, for example, clearing out a lot of the underbrush and having less big trees that are spaced out and not trying to grow every tree. And so you'll notice that the Europeans seldom have huge fires in their forests in Northern Europe because they treat the forest like a garden. They clean up the forest floor.
Yep.
They cut down some of the smaller trees to space it out.
And
so
they
we
use
have
it all.
Big, healthy.
It's amazing. There's so many things you can use all that stuff for.
And
Which is sustainable.
Yes.
trees grow to a certain point and then they need to be cut down.
Right.
Because they'll eventually fall down. Remember, trees don't grow to the sky. We sometimes think a tree is just going to, well, it starts and then it grows to a certain height and then it matures.
Everything has a life cycle.
Well, it's better if we harvest it and use the wood in a productive way and then replant new trees.
Yes, that's it.
What we don't want is a huge fire that kills a lot of the wildlife. And so
you hit the nail on the head with that, and then that also reduces the amount of plastic that we need to produce because all that wood could be turned into paper products that would be used in lieu of plastic. So people need to get on the train of, healthy forests and paper products, paper over plastic.
So Gary Driggs, do you feel like what is your solution for taking care of the fires that are going on right now?
well, the solution was 20 years ago to keep the forest floor cleaned up and not let all of this material. On a clean forest with not a lot of little stuff on the ground. When it gets a fire, it doesn't burn the tops of the trees. It just burns the grass, opens up the pine cones, new trees germinate.
But what can be done now? I mean, right now.
Well, right now you have to put the fire out and then clean up the forest floor. And that's what NAU has got, these experimental forests, and they found out that the best, healthiest forest has about half the number of trees that a forest just left to its own device. So we need to be good and careful with everything that we do. It's not just one single thing, because the ecosystem is a very complex thing.
It's synergistic. Yeah. So we are going to cut to a song as you think of the important points you want to discuss about the book. So after the song, we'll get back to the book, and we'll be talking to Dr. James Kneller about exercise on Camelback Mountain. Woohoo!
Hello, everybody. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we're sitting on the top of a building, and we're talking about a mountain that's right in the middle of our town. I've met an incredible individual that's just been rapping about all these things that are so incredible to me, and I just want to thank Kinga and the crowd for letting me be here. I said, in the green room, doing fine. I said, in the green room, doing fine. Well, we're talking about some books, and we're talking about some living, and we're talking about the ancient history of Arizona, and we're talking about things that I would never expect to be talking about on the radio. And then we've got this Dr. James who hasn't said a word, and he's about to just rock your world with some amazing things, and I'm pretty sure that Gary's gonna have a thing or two to say about that. I said, I'm in the green room and I'm doing fine. I said, I'm in the green room and it's gonna be okay. 'Cause we're talking about solutions, we're not talking about problems, we're just gonna give you a smile. 'Cause that's what we do here in the green room. Gonna be just fine. The world has seen worse. You're gonna be okay. Or your money back.
But don't we have to mention our wine too?
Oh yes, I would like to thank my friends at Mercury Wine.
Mercury Wine, cheers.
Cheers, everybody. These I've known these guys who make this wine since before high school. They're amazing people, and I'm going to get to go visit them for 10 days. Brad and
Mercury.
Grady, that's right. I get to go visit them 10 days. We're doing a online virtual wine tasting.
That's exciting. A little birthday trip.
A little birthday trip, yes. I
Cheers,
haven't seen
big
my...
ears.
Cheers.
Cheers, big ears.
Cheers. My ears aren't big.
It just rhymes. I just wanted to say it.
It's all good. It's all good.
Martin, we adore you, and we love when you're on the show.
I
you
love
make it
being
so
on the
much
show.
fun.
It is a lot of
You're
fun.
amazing.
I miss all of you.
We are so happy
and
you're
I
back.
get to meet new people. That's
I
what I
know.
love. Every time
Yes.
I come here, I meet somebody interesting. So Dr. James and I, we met on the elevator coming in here. And so Dr. James, grab the microphone real quick. And just
I'm giving up my mic, and you, Martin, and Gary, you're going to interview Dr. Kneller and find out why exercise is so important on Camelback Mountain.
That's right. So Dr. James, introduce yourself and then tell us why that obviously, Gary's so healthy.
Yeah, Gary, the force
Energetic
is strong in Gary.
Right.
Right. So I've appreciated sitting next to Gary, and the life that you have and the energy that you exude is really inspiring. And I'm learning so much as a new resident of Arizona. I'm sure that I'm the greenest resident of Arizona in the green room here.
That I would
Gary,
have to-
you're 55,
You're
right?
definitely the greenest one. I don't care how long you've been here. If it's not over 20 years, you're the greenest one.
Right. But so one thing I appreciate about Arizona is that in Arizona, hiking is cool.
Oh,
This
so much
this
fun
is
here.
This is a cool thing. This is
Yes.
what cool people do is they hike in Arizona
Absolutely. And
on the mountain.
they do. And there's so many mountains,
Does that
too.
mean I'm cool? Because I do that almost every day, Gary and Dr. Kneller and Martin and Chet.
Well, we see Kinga every morning when I'm working on my 10,000 steps with my buddies, and she's out there walking up and down the mountain. And if we do that every day, it's a leg up with our health.
Absolutely. It's going to be the new Okinawa, where they're famous for getting up and down off the floor several times a day. And here you're climbing the mountain at least once a day. So that is fabulous. So one thing I've always appreciated about walking, even before coming here, is that walking is one of the most whole brain activities that we can do. So when you coordinate walking, the eye-foot coordination to balance and step, you draw on every area of your brain. So the wires are firing across your entire brain. That's a very whole brain activity, and one of the reasons why walking is so good to relax, reset your mental state, de-stress, and the benefits of mental health.
Right.
So staving off dementia and mental deterioration, walking is so fabulous. So then when you couple walking, you can walk in Central Park in New York, or you can climb Camelback Mountain. So then when you couple the walking with the irregular terrain, the elevation changes on Camelback Mountain, you are kicking that into hyper mode.
Oh, hyper.
For the
especially
mental.
Camelback. Camelback's one of the toughest hikes because I live in Sunny Slope. We hike in the Phoenix Mountain Preserve, and there's beautiful mountains up there. I would say
Yeah,
it's
those are more laid
medium
back, yeah.
difficulty. Camelback seems to be there's certain places that are tough.
Right.
At least for me.
Yes, rugged terrain, right? And you're always
Right.
checking your balance.
Yes.
Every
Sometimes
step
I'd
is
feel like that,
different.
but
Yeah,
then
and it's a challenge. It's like you're not 100% sure you can make it almost sometimes, like especially if you're new. So
Sometimes I feel like that, but then I saw Gary pass me. I was like,
I know.
I gotta get into gear. The last time we went, Gary had a great pace. It was a few years ago, but yeah, I was
I'm pretty
impressed.
sure I would have to train before I went hiking with Gary. I'm pretty sure I would have to do that.
Right.
I learned from Glenn Exum, who was a famous guide in the Grand Teton National Park. When I was 16 and went climbing with him, he said the first thing you have to do is learn the Exum pace. And the Exum pace seemed painfully slow, but he made the point, you never stop.
Yes.
You just keep going. If you start to think that you're getting too exhausted, don't stop and sit down. Slow the pace down to what you can sustain. Because remember the tortoise and the hare? Who won the race?
Tortoise.
The tortoise won that race.
Because it was slow
but
and steady and staying at it day after day after day.
Gary never stops. Gary rocks it. Gary, you rock Camelback Mountain and every hike you do because I never see you stop.
That's the only way to live.
That's
Well-
actually a funny analogy you made.
No,
'cause
there's other ways to live, but it's a great way to live. How's that?
Yeah, the paradox is that at the base of Camelback Mountain, you can get a gym membership and pay to walk on a treadmill. And there's a lot of
That
people who seem
just
to have fallen for that.
Blows my mind. I cannot stand being on a treadmill. I love being on the mountain.
A hamster on a
climbing.
wheel, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a hamster on a wheel. Now I love the videos where people fall down on them, but I just don't see myself doing that. But it's like Gary was saying. I mean, the things that you see on the trail. I've seen rattlesnake. I've seen a Gila monster. I've seen deer. I've seen elk. I've seen javelina. I've seen bobcats. I've seen coyote. We live in an amazing place.
Right, an amazing place.
Not all on Camelback Mountain. Let me be clear about that.
Well, and I have to say, something that is really important to me to express to the world and to speak about with Gary is I enjoy sunrise and sunsets and taking pictures of it and photos. And if you look at my Instagram, InTheGreenRoom.Green, you can check out all the photos that I take almost every morning. And it's something that it's, the best things in life are free. Nature and sunrise, sunsets, all your hiking experiences. It's just, I think it's the best, Gary. And how do you express that to people? Because people are missing out on sunrises and sunsets, and it's something that's so beautiful.
He writes books, Kinga. That's how he tells people.
Yeah, he kind of does have a way.
Well,
I'm sorry, that was mean, but it was funny.
No, that's why I
Low-hanging
love
fruit
it.
right there, yeah.
You always make it fun, Martin. I love when you're here.
And as we struggle with COVID and everyone's all pent up and the gyms are now closed, my sense is it's forced more people back onto the mountain, and people have rediscovered that.
I definitely have seen that in my area. Unfortunately, I don't get up to Camelback Mountain too often, but I do love that hike or those hikes. There's so many different ways you can go, but it just that mountain's intimidating. I have to prepare myself to hike that mountain.
Yes.
Not with me. Let's go. You can come hike with me and the crew.
I'd rather hike with Chet. I'm pretty sure I could keep up with Chet.
Oh no, I'm actually fast. I'm actually fast.
Damn it! I mean, darn it!
I can actually out hike you now because
No
I've been hiking
chance.
every day.
Zero
Okay,
chance.
okay, the challenge is on.
You're slow.
I'll go with Robin. Robin, me and Robin can keep pace.
And my hiking style.
That's right. Me and Robin. Here we go. That's us right here.
My hiking style is the direct opposite from Gary. I'm the hare. I do probably 3-minute sprints and then drink water. 3-minute sprint, drink water, because I like to train my explosive, my fast twitch muscle. Because you can either work on cardio, slow twitch muscle, steady pace, or you can work on your explosive
Gary, what do you
muscle.
think of that? Gary, I want to hear from
look,
you. Gary Driggs.
I think that's great.
It's more difficult for sure.
The thing to do is to just do it.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if you can't get to the mountain to hike. Walk around the block. Mm-hmm. It's a step is a step is a step.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And while it's a little bit more cardio, if you climb up, pick up some stairs and steps and all of that going up, but just a horizontal walk is great exercise. And so you all have a gym right in front of you.
And it's free.
And it's free. And it's also medically safer and better.
That's right. We have a doctor backing him up on this.
I'm backing you up.
That's right.
Wanted to ask you, what's the significance of 10,000 steps? Why is that a goal?
Well, it's been medically thought for a long time that 10,000 steps is enough exercise to really stay fit. They actually did a big study, and the study said 7,000 gets you most of what you need to do. Mm-hmm. 10,000 is better, but there's a diminishing return after 7,000 steps. Now, once you kind of get in your mind that you're going to do 10,000 steps, that becomes a standard. But even if you only can get 7,000 steps in, it's going to be health friendly for you, and you're going to feel better, and you're going to be healthier and live longer. Every step has a value.
And
you got it.
And
Wait,
his
are we gonna
positive attitude. We're going to close with a song, but I want to say every day when I see Gary, I'm like, how are you today? He's like, amazing. He's like, it's going to be a great day. He said, you say that every time I see you.
I'm fit for a fossil.
I love that line. Phenomenal.
Well, and that is so important because there was how much time we have, Robin? Less than 2 minutes. Oh, darn it.
We have to go to a song, so we want to say thank you, Gary Driggs. You are going to be... Can we get you back on here as a regular because we love you?
I thoroughly enjoyed it being with all you young whippersnappers.
And we're saving the planet one show at a time.
One show at a time.
Let's go to Martin.
All right. This has been so much fun. We appreciate everybody and the wisdom that Gary was throwing down and the wisdom that Dr. James was throwing down. I'll say yes. Yes is more fun. I say yeah. Yes, it's more fun.
Yay.
Go walking outside, go hiking on Camelback Mountain.
300,000 hikes a year get to the top.
300,000 hikes a year up to the top.
And the ceremonial grotto.
And a ceremonial.
Get religion every day.
Get religion.
Thank you for listening to In the Green Room. Join us here live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. or anytime on demand 24/7 on StarWorldWideNetworks.com.